Does anyone hear you? You know, like we all want to be heard. Like every single person here wants to be heard. We have to be heard. We cannot have good relationships without being listened to. We cannot have good friendships and business relationships if we can't communicate well. We don't get anything in this life if we don't know how to ask for it. I don't have trust. So does anybody even want to hear what you have to say? You know, sometimes no. And are you so self-important that you got to ramble on ad nauseum just to be heard? Yeah, or because you're annoying. Yeah, it's true. What do you do? So we're going to explore some of this stuff. Because if we don't self-examine our who and what we are and how we need to express ourselves, then we cannot express ourselves at all because nobody's going to pay attention. And it's a superhuman strength. You know, I mean, it's the ability to communicate well to somebody willing to listen is a superpower, and it takes practice. It takes a lot of practice. Like I was just asking Dean the other day, because I feel like I'm a good communicator most of the time, and I was asking Dean, how do I get to Andrew a little bit better? And not that me and Andrew have any sort of thing, but you know, I want to be able to communicate better, where people are more receptive, and it's something we all have to work on. And we need to be heard, because why? You know, we got to resolve family issues if you can. You can't resolve them if you're not talking, if you don't express yourself. You can't smooth out wrinkles in relationships if you don't express yourself in a way that is good. You can't build new relationships. You got to be outside of your comfort zone. And to be outside of your comfort zone, you have to then be able to communicate effectively so you can build those relationships. You got to tell those people what you need. You know, like Tony. I've told Tony that just walked in the door, I want to become and build a relationship with him. I can tell he's a good guy. But he would not know that if I didn't express myself. Steve wouldn't know that I loved him if I don't tell him. You know, and he wouldn't have known that I forgot coffee Thursday unless I told him. You know, so, you know, we can't grow our business. We can't advance our careers. We can't do anything unless we are able to express ourselves. That's why we have a need to be heard. It's really, really important. But the big issue is if the other person's not willing to listen, well, then it's a moot point. You know, if Megan, I'll have something to tell Megan and Megan doesn't want to listen, well, then I can't get that point across to Megan. You know, it's impossible. If Jim tells me, man, I'm too busy for you today, I'm too busy for whatever, well, I can't talk to Jim that day, or maybe I can't talk to him ever because he's closed off. And that's okay. That's just something that I have to deal with. But, you know, we can't read people's minds. We can't read their hearts. We don't know how stressed everybody is. We have these assumptions because they are communicating to us in such a way that we perceive that they're assholes. Just like we talked about before we started filming this. We don't know the circumstances in people's lives. We don't know what's being harbored inside of their soul. So we just assume that you're being an ass. But maybe you're not. Maybe we're the ones being an ass for making the assumption that you are being an ass. Or maybe it's both. You know, who knows? But I would say one of the best things to do, one of the tools the Infinite has given us, we can write down our thoughts. If we have something we need to tell somebody, if Jill has this thing in her mind that, hey, this is really bothering me and I need to talk about it, but she doesn't, but she finally gets up the courage to do it, she should write it down. Like write down the points so you don't forget. Like if I got something I need to talk to Ricky about, I have lists that I have to talk to Ricky about all the time. Ricky, stop yelling at me. Ricky, stop being excited. Ricky, slow down. You know, but we have to write things down because whenever you're in the heat of the moment, you're already anxious. You know, like if I have to go talk to Jim about something important or Matt, I might forget a bunch of the key points because I'm wrapped up in that anxiety of building the strength up to just go talk to the person. And then all of a sudden I forget half the crap I want to say. You know, then you leave and you think you got something resolved and then you remember, oh, well, I didn't go over that, and that. So now I got to go back. It's kind of crazy, right? But you have to ask them first. Like, you know, I don't know Brian very well over here, but he's my third cousin, I think. I would have to ask him, like, hey, I'd like to talk to you about this issue. Like you're a violin player, and I would like to have you out here some more when we do these events and stuff at night. And I would have to ask you, would you be willing and able to talk about that? Are you receptive to that idea? And then instantly you could say yes or no. Then I know where to go from that point. If I tell Jill, hey, I got this issue that's bothering me. Can we talk about it today? Maybe she doesn't want to talk about it today. Maybe she's pissed off about something that I did or said, and she's just not ready yet. Well, then I can't just go in there and start blabbering my brains out, but she just told me she's not ready to hear what I have to say. So we have to use some common sense, right? I mean, the infinite has given us these tools to think, and we should always go into whatever we're doing with an open heart. And sometimes that is really, really hard to do. Like really hard. Our egos get in the way. Our masculinity gets in the way. You instantly want to say, you're a dick. You just want to get aggressive. There's no reason for that. If we can if we can stop ourselves and hit the pause button, take a deep breath and go, all right, let me come from a place in my core that's okay. Let me find this little spot inside of me that's all right. Let me let that blossom out and talk from my heart, and then just set a time and place. Just get after it if they're willing to talk to you. But what happens if you do not ask? Nothing happens. If you don't talk about it, if you don't get it out, then there's no chance of any resolution ever. Then resentment builds, because everybody's had this happen. If you don't talk to somebody about what's bothering you, all of a sudden you start hating them more and more and more. They irritate you more and more. And then you just they're just gone. Apparently every woman Matt's ever met does this. He just irritates them. They irritate you. They last a week. So it's all these things happen, hurt, sadness, anxious. We get stressed, and all this stress manifests itself in our body. Like in our shoulders, our neck, our back. Like you can feel it. That's why people have to get massages all the time, because we're stressed out to the max. And a lot of that is self-inflicted, because we don't know how to communicate. We're too afraid to communicate. We don't want to communicate. We're too mad to communicate. We just let ourselves get in the way. We are our own roadblock, like most of the time. But what if that person or group or whatever doesn't want to hear from you? There's really nothing you can do. There's just nothing you can do. You can do a couple of little small things. Maybe you can write a letter. Hey, if you're ever better, short. Everything has to be short. Nobody wants a blabbermouth to run off forever and ever. I sure would like to talk to you about blah, blah, and they write you a novel, or you get a 10-mile long text. Nobody wants any of that stuff. But what you can do is just say, hey, I would like to visit with you about this issue if you're open. And if they don't, there's nothing you can do. Like I sent my brother a text 3 or 4 days ago. And my brother, for whatever reason, does not want to speak to me at all. And no response. But that's okay. I can't control him. I can't read into his mind. So I got to let that not bother me. And that's kind of hard to do, because I love the guy. So him not being receptive, and I really don't know why he's not receptive. I really don't understand why he's mad at all about anything. But that's on him. All you can do is do your part. You can only do your part. That's it. And what are you going to do when you're in front of that person or group or whatever? You got to have eye contact. And then what are you telling them with your eyes? Are you telling them you really don't want to talk to them in the first place? Like you just want to say something to stab them? Like, yeah, I want to talk to you because I want to tell you how rude and what a dick you are. That's not how we do it, is it? No. Not if we want some peaceful resolution. What is our body language saying to everybody we're around? This is a universal sign. Both Steves are doing it right now. So's Ricky. So's Tony. So's Dean. This is the standoff sign. This is the body language that I got my guard up. You just look at body language experts. That's what my guard is up. I'm protecting my core. So I'm protecting my core. So what are you telling everybody when we're doing this? What are you telling everybody are the people that you want to talk to when you're looking at them like you want to go over there and slap the shit out of them? So what we're saying without saying it is a lot. And we should be really hyper aware of how we're communicating. Like if y'all all look at Matt, This is the universal sign of being extremely open. I am open to what you're saying. I have no barriers up like this. I am open. I'm exposed to you. And it's really subtle and self-conscious, not self-conscious, embedded in our consciousness that we pick up on these things, but we're not fully aware of it until we think about it. And how are we saying it? Are we saying stuff like rude? Hey man, I really want to talk to you. I got something to say, Steve. Or is that, or like, hey, Steve, I think we got this issue and I'd really like, see if we can work that out. Like those are two real different ways to approach somebody to talk. Like if Jill was mad at me and she came to me and said, you are such an asshole, we need to talk and work this out. Well, that's probably not going to go real well. Just probably not. So we got to be really aware of how we do things, right? And first of all, we should never raise our voice. We need to set some boundaries before we even talk to somebody. Like, hey, especially if it's like a big issue, hey, let's agree, since we're both agreeing to talk, let's agree not to raise our voice at each other. If it gets heated, like pre-qualify a conversation. Like before it gets heated, and if one of us get heated, let's just pause for a minute so we can continue on, because obviously we want to have this conversation. Like that's a big thing. Who the hell do you know that does that? I mean, not many people. It's a very small slice, but the ones who do, they have really, really good relationships with people. Like strong relationships. And don't drag crap out, man. Like what is worse than talking to somebody that just doesn't shut up? Everything is about them, about them, about them. That's problematic, and you don't want to be that person. Like you don't want to be the person that whoever you want to talk to is just sitting there. The longer you talk, the less they are listening. All they want to do is for you to shut up so they can say their one or two lines before you interrupt them again and start saying whatever crap you need to say. Like we need to be concise and articulate and not bore the crap out of them. The most important thing is, getting our ego and our own self-importance out of the way. Man, that is really tough to do because, we are the center of our own universes, everyone here. And if we want to talk to somebody else and we want to resolve something, we want to build a better relationship with a friend, colleague, a worker, whatever. If we just get in our own way, we let our fear, we let our body language, we let all these things inside of us stop us from having these relationships that are positive and beautiful. So just get out of your own way. We are the main reason for all of our problems and how we perceive things. A lot of sports guys, like from football, golf, like all the major sports, they practice meditating on exactly what they do. Like if you're a baseball player, they will have meditation coaches that they will meditate and envision them swinging that bat and doing it perfectly, everything about the mechanics, how far the ball goes, how fast, and they'll go over all these scenarios in their mind all the time. It improves their game in a huge way, in a big, big, big way. So why wouldn't we, before we go talk to somebody about something really important, or even mildly important, why wouldn't we practice going over those conversations in our mind? So we would be better at doing it. If we got something important to say to our spouse, our loved one, our business partner, our client, whatever, if we can go over those different scenarios, the good side, the bad side, the indifferent, and then we're emotionally and mentally prepared for whatever may come up. Like that's a big deal, to practice how to talk to somebody. It's one of the reasons why I walk around like a crazy person talking to myself all the time. I'm talking to everybody. This is kind of stupid, actually. But we have to be willing to look at ourselves. We have to role play issues in our heads. We have to examine how we react. And are we a good friend where somebody would even want to extend that in the first place? Like, would I be a good friend enough to any one of y'all that are here that y'all would even want to listen? You have to ask yourself those questions. Am I the person I'd want to be a friend with, to even talk to? And if you're not, well, maybe you should kick yourself in the ass and get outside of your comfort zone. Because one thing we don't want to do, if it all falls apart, we don't want to burn down every bridge. You can't get to the other side. Swimming in the current really sucks. Jim says go to the river. Sometimes that's a good idea, but you don't want to swim underneath the burning bridge. I think we should be really cautious of how we communicate, because nobody has windows into our souls. Nobody knows how we think. They have ideas from the version of ourselves we show to each other, but that's not really who we are. All of our fears, anxieties, stress, financial worries, all these things are problematic. And they burn down bridges when we don't want those bridges burnt down. So this is just a great start, something for everybody to think about, especially during the holidays. Everybody's going to be seeing their family and friends, and let's just remember the ones that we thought were a dick. Maybe they've grown some. Maybe they're not that way anymore. Or maybe they're trying not to be that way. You don't know until you actually communicate with them. You just don't know. I mean, how have we changed from the last time we've seen friends or family we haven't seen in a long time? If we have changed a lot, that doesn't mean that they're still stuck in that position. So we shouldn't automatically assume that they are. They still might be, but there's nothing we can do about that. We still have to give them the benefit of the doubt every single time. Otherwise, we just burn down bridges. Doesn't make any sense. Guys, I hope this message resonated with y'all. If it did at home, like and subscribe. Come out in person. I know most of y'all are in this area. We just got like almost 21,000 subscribers and 10,000 or 12,000 people watch us a week. There's no reason for you not to come out. It's a good group of people. We all need a support system, and we all need to build trusting relationships with good people. So if you're a bad person with bad vibes, just stay your ass on the couch. Love you. We'll see you next time.